Hi, my name is Brad. I'm the owner of We Buy Maryland Homes. And if you're trying to sell your house in Maryland, I'm sure you have a ton of questions. It's your biggest asset and you just don't know what to do with it. So today, I've taken the time in this video to try and answer some of the most frequently asked questions about selling a house here in Maryland, so that when the time comes for you to sell your house, whether it's in Baltimore or Annapolis or Frederick or Pikesville or anywhere in Maryland, you can make an informed decision. Now, the first question is, why would I accept a cash offer that might be lower than what I'd get on the open market? This is by far the most popular question I get. And well, a cash sale usually means that there's no showings, there's no repairs, there's no realtor commissions, and there's usually less of a chance of financing issues with the buyer at the end. It's quicker, more predictable process. So sometimes what looks like a lower offer can actually leave you better off once you factor in the time saved, the avoided costs. I mean, it comes down to weighing convenience and certainty against a potentially higher but way more complicated market price offer. Now, how do I know I'm getting a fair price for my house? That's kind of the follow-up. Homeowners often wonder how cash buyers come up with their offers, and it usually comes down to several factors: local market data, recent comparable sales, and definitely the specific condition of your home. By evaluating similar properties that have sold nearby, a buyer can gauge a fair market value. And if you're concerned, it's definitely a good idea to compare other sales in your neighborhood or even get a second opinion. At the end of the day, transparency is the key, and you should always feel comfortable about asking how they arrived at that number. Now, what if you can't actually close quickly? A common concern is whether a cash buyer can really close fast. It's a big concern. Typically, cash buyers, though, aren't relying on bank financing, so they can skip the whole loan approval process, and that usually means fewer contingencies and less waiting around. Still, timelines can vary. Title checks, paperwork, unique property situations can often cause delays. But compared to a traditional sale, a cash transaction tends to wrap up a whole lot quicker, often in a matter of weeks rather than months. Now, how do I know you're not a scam? I get it. That's a totally valid concern. There's a lot of cash buyers out there. There's a lot of We Buy Houses guys. You need to look for signs of legitimacy, like a reputable business name, a verifiable track record, reviews from past clients. Some sellers also involve a real estate attorney to oversee the documents, which can, usually offer extra peace of mind. If a buyer can provide proof of funds and explain their process clearly, that's a very good indication that they're operating completely above board. Is this process going to cost me anything, like hidden fees or commissions? Well, one major appeal of selling to a cash buyer is avoiding many of the fees associated with a traditional listing. Normally, you don't pay realtor commissions, and often the buyer will cover all the standard closing costs. Still, it's very wise to double check for any administrative or any title-related fees that might come up. The best approach is simply to ask for an itemized breakdown in writing, so that you know exactly who's paying for what and there's no unwelcome surprises down the road when you get to the closing table. Why shouldn't I just fix up the home and sell it for more on the open market? Great question. Renovating your house before a listing can often boost its value, but it's also requiring time, money, and definitely some project management skills. It's not an easy process at all. It's not even easy for investors. Plus, there's no guarantee that you'll recoup the entire investment. If you're in a hurry and you don't want the hassle of contractors and showings, sometimes selling as is for cash could be a lot simpler and a lot easier. It just comes down to your priorities. Do you value speed and convenience, or are you willing to invest more time and money to potentially get a higher price? It's up to you how you want to approach that. Well, what if my house needs a lot of repairs? Well, a property in rough shape might scare off a lot of traditional buyers, and it's going to require you to spend time on renovations. Cash buyers, on the other hand, they typically purchase homes in as-is condition, and that means you don't have to fix a leaky roof or update the kitchen or fix the pipes or anything like that just to make the deal. They factor in the cost of the needed repairs when they make their offer, and you skip the hassle of having to do it yourself. Do I have to move out immediately after closing? Some folks worry that a quick closing will force them to rush out. In many cases, you can often negotiate a closing timeline that matches your needs, or work out a short, like post-closing occupancy, like a lease back if necessary. It varies by buyer and region, but it's worth asking about flexible move-out dates so that you're not scrambling to find new accommodations. The minute the papers are signed, you need to have a plan to move on, or a plan to rent it back. How can I be sure you won't change the offer at the last minute? I have talked about this many times in other videos. It's extremely frustrating to hear about offers getting pulled or changed at the 11th hour. Typically, once a cash buyer's done their inspection and title checks, the offer they finalize is the one you'll see at closing. Now, of course, that's barring any undisclosed issues that might surface later. For extra confidence, it's always smart to ask for everything in writing, and don't hesitate to consult a real estate attorney if you're unsure. And the last question is, what if I have a mortgage or liens or other legal complexities attached to my home? Well, this is what we do. Having a mortgage or a balance or even a lien on a property doesn't necessarily stop a cash sale. Often buyers' teams will work with you or the lender or any relevant parties to clear the title, settle all the debts at closing. As long as the total payout from the sale covers what's owed, or you make arrangements if it doesn't, these issues are generally manageable. Just make sure everyone involved knows about them up front to avoid surprises. I hope this has been helpful. I hope that when you are ready to sell your house in Maryland, that you will take all these things into consideration so that you have the best information available to you when it's time to sell.